Hey everyone, this is Mason and you're listening to Herb Rally. Today's episode is another edition of the Herbalist Hour, and this time I'm joined by Emily Han and her second appearance, Rosalee de la Forêt. So Emily and Rosalee, they both co-wrote the incredibly popular book Wild Remedies and have recently also collaborated on a wonderful course and community called Rooted Medicine Circle, which they're currently offering a free mini course. So if you'd like to check out that free mini course, go ahead and click on the link at the tippy top of today's podcast show notes. Are you ready to fill your medicine cabinet with potent herbal remedies? Are you ready to have personal guidance rather than sifting through endless BS online? If so, please join the free mini course with the Rooted Medicine Circle. Inside of the free mini course, there's a webinar where you'll learn to avoid 7 common herbal pitfalls so that you can make powerful remedies that heal. There's a live tea class where you'll learn to make high quality herbal teas that people will actually drink and you'll know when to use them. And there's also a community where you'll get to connect with the other herb lovers in the mini course community. By the end of the mini course, you'll know where to start with herbs or how to take your herbal skills to the next level. So one more time, I will leave a link to the Rooted Medicine Circle free mini course at the top of the podcast show notes. And in today's conversation, we talk quite a bit about what Rooted Medicine Circle is, and we also chat about how they first met, the experience of co-authoring a book, the benefits of making your own herbal remedies, the power of cohort-based courses. We also chat about what an oxymel is. And by the way, dear listener, Emily and Rosalee created an exclusive PDF to Herb Rally audience members on a mandarin and evergreen shrub recipe, which includes oxymels in the recipe. So if you'd like to download that free PDF, just check out the podcast show notes. It'll take you to the Herb Rally website. You can get the PDF there. So a huge thanks to Emily and Rosalee for joining me on the show. And before we get into the episode, I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, and that is, of course, Oshala Farm. If you're looking to purchase organically grown medicinal herbs that were grown right here in the United States, be sure to check out Oshala Farm at oshalafarm.com. They grow and sell over 80 medicinal plants, which you could purchase. They also sell herbal tea blends, fire cider, elixirs, organic hydrosols that they make right there on their beautiful Southern Oregon farm. So one more time, check out Oshala Farm at oshalafarm.com. And a huge thanks to Elise and Jeff Higley, the founders and owners of Oshala Farm, for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Also would love to thank our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members for your support. We really could not do this without you. So thanks to each and every one of our Herb Rally Schoolhouse members. If you'd like to learn more about the Herb Rally Schoolhouse and what it is, you can simply go to herbrally.com/schoolhouse, and you can try your first 30 days for free by using coupon code podcast at checkout. Then it's only $10 a month after that, and it's one of the best ways you could help support our work here at Herb Rally. So enough of my rambling. Enjoy today's episode with Emily Han and Rosalee de la Forêt. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm really excited to have on Emily Han and Rosalee de la Forêt. Welcome to the show, you two.
Oh, thanks for having us, Mason. I've been excited to hang out with my favorite people, so this is fun.
Same.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. This is a story I've never heard before, so I'm very curious how you two met.
Well, I wish we had like the story of like we were in a garden and we just like looked at each other, like some kind of meet cute story or something. I don't know. Maybe we should invent that, Emily.
Yeah.
Just make up a story.
Yeah, we should, because the story is we met on Facebook.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was working on a project. It was actually the Taste of Herbs flavor wheel, and I had like written it out by hand, and I needed someone to like expertly like digitize it. And so I just put it out on Facebook, like, hey, can anybody help me with this kind of complex graphic artist kind of thing? And Emily reached out to me and she was like, hey, we have a mutual friend in common. Like, I didn't know her before that. And she said, we have a mutual friend in common and I could help you with this. And she did. And it was awesome. And then she reached out again and was like, I don't know. She just reached out again, was like, I could help with other things, or I'm looking for this type of work or whatever. I don't quite remember it, but I remember like she reached out and I was like, oh, I could like she was asking of like I knew of other people who needed this, and I was like, no, I could use that kind of work. And so we started working together. This was like 2013, and we have pretty much been working together ever since. Like I don't think there's really been like an era within that we stopped working together. So yeah, it's been 11 years now or so.
Time flies, and eventually you all co-authored a book, Wild Remedies. What was that process like?
Oh, it was so much fun writing the book together. I think, we had already been working together, but the book was another level of project. And I think from the planning the book to writing the book, editing it, putting it out in the world, we were always so in sync with each other. I mean, it was kind of uncanny, we would be like finishing each other's sentences and, oh, I had this idea. Oh, of course I had that idea this morning too, and it was just incredible to be able to work together on that book. And then, that started further collaborations that just grown since then. After we put out our book, Wild Remedies, we created a survey for our readers just to kind of see like what would people like next, and what could we offer after having done the book. And I think we were both really kind of surprised at what came out of that survey was that people really wanted medicine making skills. They wanted to learn making their own, more about learning to make their own herbal remedies. And I think that wasn't something that either of us had really anticipated. But that's what the people wanted. And, and that's something, of course, that we had both been, working on and teaching too. And then it just kind of, grew into a larger, course offerings from there.
And are you equally a Tori Amos fan as well, Emily?
Well, I don't think anyone can equal Rosalee's level of Tori Amos fandom. But fair. Yes, I do enjoy Tori as well.
She does like Tori, which is, I think, part of why we get along. But what's interesting about Emily is she's a huge BTS fan. So it's like we both have obsessions that when they were both on tour last year, it was like, or, whoever was touring last year. But anyway, it was like we were both like going, like making these big moves to go see concerts and stuff. So it was fun. We both understand that too from like teaching. It's like, oh, I have a Tori concert, and like she just knows, like, okay, I'm gonna handle that week, and she has BTS stuff going on, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna handle that week. Like it's 100% understandable. We know the priorities.
For a second, I thought you said Tori and BTS were touring together, but that probably didn't happen.
Oh, I think that would be incredible. We've got to orchestrate that.
So, what other projects are you all working on these days together?
Well, just this week, we're really excited to be hosting the Rooted Medicine Circle mini course. And it happens for the week of January 16th through January 24th. And we have a really good time just collecting a lot of herbal enthusiasts together so that we can do this mini course together. And it's nuanced. The first thing people get access to is a video with Emily and I on the 7 common herbal pitfalls and how you can avoid them so you can make really powerful remedies. And we had a really good time putting that together because we really thought in our 20 years of experience, like where did we get stuck? Where do we see our students get stuck so that we can help people both be like, it's one thing to be kind of aware of it and then also how to move beyond it. So we have that video. And then, which is really fun, we have a live medicine making class on teas. And I think teas, like in some ways, they're not underrated in that like they're the most common beverage in the entire world. But like, even though they seemingly are super simple, like herbs, water, drink, there's so much nuance to teas. Like, are you making teas for enjoyment? Are you making medicinal teas? Are you making medicinal teas that you actually want someone to drink and not to like choke on and sputter out because it tastes so bad? There's all these different nuances to how you can get a really great cup of tea. And of course, not all herbs are the same. There's so many different techniques depending on what herb you're using. So we deep dive into that as well. So a live tea class, and it's fun. Everyone gets to, make the tea with us so we can all do it together. And then we answer lots of questions, which is something we like to do. And then also within the mini course, we have a community so people can get together, inspire each other, ask questions. And this all leads up into a sneak peek of our 9-month Rooted Medicine Circle course.
Awesome. Well, why don't you tell us more about Rooted Medicine Circle then?
Absolutely. So as Emily mentioned, we did the survey and we got this, feedback that people wanted to make medicine and wanted more skills in making medicine. And we really thought about that for a long time because, like Emily said, we were kind of surprised, like we weren't necessarily already working in that direction. And so we thought about it for a long time, and we thought about like what would make this like something that's uniquely ours, something that we're super passionate about, and something that we want to put out into the world. And so we came up with this concept of herbal medicine making that's also bridging the gap towards strengthening your own connection to nature, so that it's not just about being in your kitchen and making herbal remedies, which is awesome, but it's also about how do we form those connections to the plants, whether we are buying those plants from, like, say, an apothecary, or whether we're harvesting those plants from our garden, or maybe foraging for those plants out in the world. So how do we form that connection? And then how do we form that connection with the world around us? And we think that is a huge part of the medicine. So it's not just about like how many elderberries do you put in your syrup, but also about your connection to the elder tree as well. So yes, students emerge from the course, they have a lot of confidence in making strong and effective herbal remedies, which is a passion of mine too, because I think because herbal remedies are so seemingly simple, it's easy to gloss over some key things that makes the difference between something that's like very weak and something that's potent, which, to be fair, is not always, we're not always looking for potency, but we are trying to like line up our intentions with the end result. And so, someone, for example, might hear of the amazing benefits of stinging nettle. And so they think, I'll make a tea out of it, and I'll take a teaspoon of the fresh plant and make a tea out of that. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. We're big into like, there's no wrong way to do things. But if that is the only method you have for making a nettle tea, you're going to miss out on a lot of key benefits. So that's a big part of it, is just going into all the nuance so people can understand it and have a really solid base and skip a lot of the mistakes that often get made. And we do this, we are very thorough in our teaching. We have clear written instructions. We have video calls. As I mentioned, we love to answer questions. So we make sure everybody's question is answered. And people always comment on that. They're like, wow, you answered an hour of questions. It's like, yeah, we stay on until the questions are answered. 100%. We have everything that's recorded. We have a community support person that answers emails. So we really like to just provide a lot of support for folks, because we don't want them to do it alone, right? We want them to have all that they need to be successful.
Just a quick break from the show to thank our presenting sponsor, Oshala Farm. Oshala Farm is a beautiful and vibrant certified organic herb farm based in Southern Oregon, where they grow and sell over 80 different plant species. The founders, Elise and Jeff Higley, have been longtime friends, so I highly trust their growing methods and ethics. You'll love the potency and vibrancy of all the herbs they have to offer. To learn more and purchase their herbs and other organic goods, head to oshalafarm.com. So thanks once again to Oshala Farm for sponsoring the Herbalist Hour. Now back to the show. Enjoy. Is there any overlap between the book Wild Remedies and the course Rooted Medicine Circle?
There is in some sense, like Wild Remedies, the book, is very focused on the nature connection and forming that relationship with the world around you. So the course expands on that and helps people really bring that home. In terms of the medicine making, the detailed descriptions that we give are not in the book. Maybe Emily, you could describe some of the remedies we make and how we do it.
Yeah, it's funny, in creating the course, it's like we essentially wrote another book. The notebook for the course is a whole other like 300-page book. But through the written instructions as well as our live video classes, we make over 20 remedies together. So it's everything from like teas, like Rosalee mentioned, to tinctures, hydrosols, oils, salves, creams, baths, it's like so many different things. And it's wonderful because we have students who are absolute beginners and have never made any of these remedies before. And so they're learning it all from scratch. We have other students who, might have been making herbal remedies for years or sometimes even decades, but they'll let us know, I've learned something new about making tinctures that I never knew before, or, I've been making oils for years, but I had never made my own hydrosol. And now I've, discovered a new favorite remedy. And so it's really wonderful to explore all those different types of remedies together. And then at the same time that we're making the medicines, we're also building those naturalist skills. So people are being able to really develop those relationships wherever they live. We have students who are all over the world. And so they can start to learn to recognize, their own plants, locally to their area, and really forming those reciprocal relationships, in the world around them. It's so neat. We often have students, at the end of the year, they'll say like, I was really interested in herbal medicine, and maybe that's why I signed up. I wanted to make my own medicines, but now having taken Rooted Medicine Circle, my relationship to the plants themselves has really been transformed. That I have this deeper relationship with the plants, with the earth. So that is really just a really wonderful transformation to see.
Absolutely.
That's kind of why we're in it. We love that.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I presume that there's like overlap between your skill set, but I'm also presuming there's like specialties between each of you. So I'm just kind of curious how you both navigate co-teaching with each other.
Yeah, so we teach each of the classes together. We're side by side, and I think it's, as I mentioned before, we were so often in sync and on the same wavelength. So we love, having those similarities, but then also our differences. We each bring our own individual experiences and skills to the class. So being able to, I think, combined, we have over 20 years of experience. So we can offer more to the students in terms of answering those questions that we have, in our classes, in our live Q&As, in our forum. And so, we each bring different skills to the table. I think Rosalee has really deep clinical experience and can really answer a lot of questions about dosage or using the herbal remedies, for different ailments. So that's one area that Rosalee really brings to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I like one thing I really love about Emily, of the many things that I love about Emily, is she is incredibly detailed oriented. This is just an amazing strength of hers, and it is not a strength of mine. So that plays out in a lot of different ways, like from admin, like the course runs so smoothly thanks to Emily. Also, like she does really cool things, like she created a tincture and glycerite calculator that students just like the love for that calculator just goes, helps people really do the ratio correctly, and it makes it all simple. And I don't even know, like it blows my mind how she did that in a spreadsheet. She is definitely queen of spreadsheets. And she also has a food preservation background and has done all that. So when there is really specific questions around that, I'm always, whenever those questions come up, I just kind of like, and Emily, take it away.
Well, and Emily, I know you wrote a book as well called Wild Drinks and Cocktails. We might get into recipes a little bit later, but I'm just kind of curious, is there like, say, a cocktail component to the course?
We actually do. We have a little cocktail party in the summer where it's a student meetup, and I teach some cocktail making skills, so you can use your various herbal syrups and tinctures and teas and things to make cocktails. So yeah, we do get to have some fun with that too, and mocktails, with or without alcohol.
So everyone's joining on Zoom and making drinks together and having some drinks together?
Yeah, it's a fun summertime activity.
That's rad. I love that. So on your website, you say herbalism isn't about throwing back dropper fulls. Nicely worded. I feel like a lot of people might say droppers full. I don't know. Herbalism isn't about throwing back dropper fulls of a tincture. It's about transforming your life by becoming deeply rooted in the natural world, its seasonal rhythms, and your place within it. Can one of you expound upon that?
Yeah, I think, in our work and in our classes, like we really want to center the idea that building the relationships with the plants is really an essential part of the medicine. So, it's a totally different vibe from, walking into like a fluorescent, lit drugstore and you're buying some artificial red syrup, for your cough, that versus really developing those relationships with the plants and making your medicine that's rooted in your sense of place, in your relationships with the plants, and that ultimately is going to be more healing for yourself, for the community around you, even for our planet.
Absolutely. Did you have anything
Yeah, I
to
had a
add to
couple
that?
of thoughts.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
I had a couple of thoughts on that too. And just kind of the ways that herbalism is different from perhaps other modalities, and that we do have this opportunity to have that connection with the world around us, and also to recognize that the health of the planet and our communities is, incredibly tied into our own personal health. And I was actually recently reading a book on longevity, and it had great information in the book about these big things, like exercise and mental health, and these kind of big things. And not once did the book talk about planetary health, didn't talk about community health. And it would just seem like such a huge, blind spot to me. How can we talk about our personal health without talking about these things? From really practical sense of things, of like consequences, like if we live in a polluted area, that's going to affect our personal health. But even like, not even from like a fear-based thing, but also from just a joyful thing. Like, so much joy comes out of that connection to our community, to the support from our community. And when I think of community, I think of my neighbors, I think of the people in the greater community, but I also think about the kingfisher that I listen to every morning, and how much joy the kingfisher brings me, and how empowering it is to walk by an elderberry shrub and know that I depend on this particular shrub for so much important medicine, and how that strengthens my voice when it comes to thinking about the planet, our communities, and personal health, and how we can all play a role in making those as strong as they can be.
Any chance you two might write that book yourself?
I would not rule that out.
I love it. Can you explain the benefit of making your own herbal medicines versus buying them at the store?
So often, when we making your own medicine is like, that process becomes part of the medicine. I think it's so empowering to be able to create the remedies yourself, not just buying them at the store. And it's, everything from sourcing the herbs, whether you have grown them yourself or gathered them yourself, or, thoughtfully purchase them, from someone who has grown them in a regenerative way, to actually being in your kitchen, creating the remedy, and then actually taking the remedy. That process is just, it's so empowering. It reconnects you, to your own ability to create, as well as the knowledge that all of our ancestors have. And so you're really you're deepening that relationship with the plants and the earth around you, as well as your own abilities, your own lineage, the community around you.
Absolutely.
I love that, Emily. And actually, this morning I had acorn pancakes, and
was that Xavier's creation?
We got a recipe online, but yeah, he did tweak it pretty good. He's really good at that. Yeah, so we're having these acorn pancakes, which are fun and delicious. But as I was eating them, like, I felt like this joy that just felt like something more than the food itself. And it made me start to think of like how many of my ancestors ate acorns, and like how, like, it felt like a DNA kind of joy of, like this, like my body was just like really recognizing this like kind of older, nourishing food. And I think that, so I was thinking a lot about that as I was enjoying my pancakes this morning, and then thinking about how that is all of our birthrights, in that there is a wide array of medicines and food as medicines, things that come directly from the earth that our ancestors relied on. And when we start to make those things and have them in our lives, I feel like there is this very deep recognition that just brings incredible amount of joy and this incredible amount of connection. And it just feels good on so many different levels, really. Then there's other reasons, like you can, like, in terms of why make your own instead of buy yours. And just to be like, I know Emily and I both buy some remedies, so it's not like we're like, never buy remedies ever. There's amazing herbalists out there making incredible products, and that, there's a joy in experiencing other people's as well. But when we talk about like mass produced, like large herbal companies or whatever. There's a lot of problems in that arena of quality. Lots of adulteration, lots of just poor quality of things that have been shipped, all over the world a couple times over. And then cost is also a huge one. Like tinctures, which are very popular forms of herbal medicine, are incredibly expensive if you buy them. Like 1 ounce of tincture, more or less is going to cost you $10, sometimes $15 these days. And if you're depending on the herb, because we have low dosage herbs and high dosage herbs, but I would say on average, an ounce of tincture could be a 3-day supply. And so if you need that, for several days, you're thinking like that could be $45 a week in a tincture. So I'm just making averages here. Or you could make your own for like a minuscule amount of that price, and you have a much better idea of the quality. You have the connection to the plants. You have the medicine of actually making it yourself and what that process is like Emily was saying. So yeah, making your own is where it's at.
Yeah, it's cheaper than you could share the abundance with your friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
I almost bought a tincture the other day at the store, and I was like, no, I'm just going to make it myself because it was so cost prohibitive. So
yeah,
that's a great point. And it's great to support your local herbalist if you do want to, like, say buy a herbal product or whatnot. Wasn't there a thing back in the old herbal blogging days where people would do like tincture exchanges or like herbal product exchanges? Everyone would just mail each other like a gift bag. Do you remember that, Rosalee?
Yeah, it was often like around the holidays. There was that kind of thing. I remember being in a couple of those circles. Yeah.
Good times. Well, let's talk about some of the recipes you'll be making. You have all sorts of categories, so I selected a couple, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more. Can you give us an overview of what an oxymel is, and perhaps share one of the recipes in the Rooted Medicine Circle?
Oh, yes, oxymel is a really fun one. Oxymel is basically, it's like a syrup that's made from vinegar and honey. So it comes from the Latin word oxymeli, which means acid honey. So people have been making these remedies these are very, very old remedies. And time honored. Medieval Persians, had recipes for like hundreds of different oxymels. And so you take the honey and the vinegar, and you could just combine those two. But when we infuse them with herbs, of course, then we bring even more power from the plants into our oxymels. So the benefits of oxymels can range from supporting the respiratory system, the immune system, soothing a sore throat. Oxymels can be taken for like congested coughs with congested mucus. They also can make just wonderful, delicious drinks, additions to food and drink. So yeah, that's a fun thing about the courses we teach too, is that a lot of these remedies can kind of do double duty. So we could use them, for particular ailments, but we can also just incorporate them into our everyday life. It's something that is, we can enjoy, share with our loved ones. So in the class, we teach how to make oxymels with fresh or dried herbs. You can also incorporate fruits into your oxymels, and then technically it's become something called a shrub. But yeah, there's so many different wonderful ingredients we can incorporate into our oxymels, and one of them that we share in the class. Well, I'll let Rosalee tell about that one.
Sure. I'm pretty obsessed with oxymel, so I'm glad you asked us about this, Mason, because there's rarely a day that goes by that I don't have an oxymel, because like Emily said, it's a delicious drink. And it also is a great way to help your body regulate carb intake too. So it's, it's just, there's so many benefits to oxymels. And I love that it becomes this kind of unique or different way to get my, herbs that I really love into my daily life in a way that's not like, oh, I'm just taking my medicine now. It's like, oh, I get to enjoy it as this wonderful beverage. So yeah, I literally make gallons of oxymels every year. And often, with local plants, and yeah, it's a fun thing. And I even sent some out for the holidays this year. So Sharon, like you were saying earlier, Mason, it's fun to make and share. And Emily and I, we have lots of recipes in the course. And one of my favorite oxymel recipes is mandarin and evergreen shrub. So this is a shrub because it's technically has the citrus in it, the mandarin citrus, and which is great for this time of year. And the evergreen can be taken from any evergreen tree. It's the needles that we're using, as long as it's not toxic or hasn't been sprayed. So you wouldn't want to use, for example, a yew tree, Y-E-W tree. But always a good idea to just check on this for sure. But pine trees, I use Douglas fir trees a lot. We're using the needles on there. So this shrub, we can give you the exact recipe, but you're basically taking mandarins, chopping up the mandarins, peel and all, and putting them in a jar. Then I like to add hawthorn berries, that's probably one of my very favorite shrubs ever, because I think everybody should have hawthorn all the time. That's just one of those things that I believe to be true. And then you have the evergreen needles, which have this Douglas fir that I like to use because it grows all around me, has a kind of a citrus taste already, but it also has this deep aromatic and kind of resinous flavor as well. Then I like to add spices to kind of just warm up the mixture. So it could be cinnamon chips, cloves, star anise. You can go wild with the spices and, creating your own little blend here. And then to make it into our shrub, we have both the honey and the vinegar. I most often use apple cider vinegar, but you can use all sorts of different vinegars for this. The only one we don't recommend is the really cheap distilled white vinegar that you find at the bottom shelf of your grocery store for $1.99 a gallon.
Right.
That stuff's made in weird ways and is very questionable. So besides that one, any type of high quality vinegar is great. Basically, you put all of that in a glass jar. Then you cover that with a lid that's preferably glass or plastic, definitely not metal, because the vinegar will corrode the metal. Another option is you can put parchment paper down and then screw on a metal lid, but you just don't want the metal to be in contact with the vinegar. You give that a good shake every day, maybe a couple times a day, and you can, you could enjoy it in as little as a week. Just keep tasting it, and you want to feel those flavors come out. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, it's fine. But once it's ready and it tastes great, you just strain that off. And my favorite way to have them, you could absolutely take it by the spoonful. My favorite way is to put a tablespoon, maybe 2 tablespoons into a cup, and then I use sparkling water on top of that, and it's just absolutely delicious.
I do have a follow-up question about the oxymels, but before I ask that, Rosalee, you mentioned everyone should be taking hawthorn every day, or you believe that. I'm just curious, are you talking about the berry, or would the leaf and flower suffice?
I'm laughing because just 2 days ago, I was in our local health food store and somebody stopped me to ask me about hawthorn. And I talked to them for 20 minutes about how they could enjoy hawthorn. So I was just laughing. So I'm like, how much time do you have, Mason?
Yeah.
And even in talking to them, I just it made me realize what a super fan of hawthorn I am.
Yeah.
So the hawthorn berries, amazing. Hawthorn leaf and flower, amazing. And you can enjoy them in all sorts of different ways. They kind of have a different preparation. So all of it's great. And I think getting a variety is really good, but a simple tea of hawthorn leaf and flower, super easy to make. I like to combine it with Tulsi. That's my favorite, hawthorn leaf and flower.
I like
that. I give that to my husband, Xavier, almost every single day.
Nice.
And that came out of, I heard Rosemary Gladstar, this was 10 or so years ago. She said, give every man in your life that you love hawthorn every day. And, if Rosemary said it, it must be true.
That's right.
So, but, she was speaking really towards heart disease and just how prevalent that is. But it's really prevalent in all genders. So it really could be a give everybody you love
Sure.
hawthorn every day.
Right.
And so we have hawthorn every single day. And not because we have heart disease, but because we don't want to have heart disease. So there's also, you can take extracts and pills. Gaia Herbs makes a good one. But more than that, I love making my own hawthorn medicine from my local hawthorns. And the shrub is the one I make the most often. That's one I have almost every day. You can also make ketchup out of the berries.
Oh, wow.
We make a 3-berry syrup in the course that's very popular, which has elderberries, rose hips, and hawthorn berries in it. Which is, just that power combination is just a really great way to modulate inflammation, which is something I'm very passionate about helping people with as well. So yeah, all the ways. That's the answer. All the ways every day.
back when I lived in Oregon, I'd had access to lots of fresh hawthorn berries, and I don't really see it that often here in Wisconsin. So I consume a lot of the nourishing herbal infusion of the leaf and flower. So I just had to ask,
Mm.
but got to get the berries in me as well. But my question about the oxymels was, you have these beautiful recipes in the course. I'm just kind of curious, does it also kind of teach you how to, like, say, freestyle it with what herbs and ingredients you might already have in your kitchen?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're this. It's so important to us that people, can develop that confidence to freestyle it, as well as use, work with the herbs that are where they live, or they're meaningful to them, that they, they might have grown, or that they and their family like. So yeah, a lot of our recipes, you can basically use them as templates, for incorporating other herbs. We also, we talk a lot in the class, as part of our answering everybody's questions, is helping people come up with, substitutions, or, thinking about, what role is the herb playing in this remedy. So, what might be some other herbs that bring, some similar gifts, to the remedy. So yeah, that is a really important thing to our class, that people can connect with the plants where they live, or that, are important to them, and incorporate those into any of these remedies, and really make it their own, so that it's, you don't have to make a very, or specific combination of herbs.
Absolutely.
That's such a
Anything?
joy with the oxymels, like all preparations with the oxymels. I think like you could go out to your garden one day and create a formula from your garden that then is just this like ephemeral thing. Like you'll make that batch and you'll never have it again. This will be like your 2024 solstice garden formula. And it's just, there's something really special in that you can just savor that and love that and know there'll be other unique formulas and recipes to come. But, it's not standardized. And that's cool, because I think it helps us to be present and really enjoy, be present and love those unique flavors.
I've been obsessed with tarragon recently. I'm not really sure why, but
Ooh,
my body
ooh.
really seems to love it. I've been cooking with it a lot lately, and yeah, I just threw some in apple cider vinegar the other day, and I've just been taking little swigs of that, diluted in water. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that. So I love that. Well, the Rooted Medicine Circle is a cohort-based course, and I want to say that seems like it might be all the rage these days, but it's also incredibly powerful, I want to say, because a lot of times folks sign up for courses of all sorts, and then I want to say, like, the completion rate is, I mean, I'm just pulling this out of nowhere, but maybe 10% of the people might complete it or something like that. I want to say cohort-based courses are incredibly powerful, and a lot of students end up completing the full thing. And I'm just kind of curious, why are cohort-based courses so powerful? And maybe even explain what a cohort-based course is as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And actually is something that we are super proud of. I've been teaching online courses for well over a decade. And so I know that those like completion numbers can be kind of dismal sometimes.
Was I close in my
And
estimation?
yeah, I've heard that as like a general, like in terms of
No.
finishing, like I've heard that you can expect like 30% of people to be generally like involved in some way, but like 10% completion. And we get so excited with Rooted Medicine Circle. Our numbers are so far beyond that. We have lots of engagement from everyone. And then we have a very high completion rate because we have a certificate path that people can do. And so we help them along the way of giving them clear guidelines and deadlines and then feedback. And so we just help move them along the way. And everybody who does the certificate course just says, it's been amazing for them to actually finish it. And at the end of the year, we get countless testimonials of people saying, this is the first herbal course I completed. So we're very proud, because that's like, we're herbal teachers. So our success really is the success of our students. And so it's really important to us that we see a lot of success. So we do. So yeah, we're very proud of that. And yeah, it's a good question. So a cohort is like, we're a live class, and this is not a DIY approach. And we live in a society that loves DIY, do it yourself, which is kind of cool, in some ways, because that was, we have like all the stuff that we could buy at the store. And like, I grew up going to like Target or Walmart and like buying lotion or whatever. And it was really, whatever those products I needed, or going to the drugstore and getting the syrup. But the DIY approach is this like break away from that and saying like, maybe these things aren't the best for me. And then how can I do that myself in a way for all those benefits we've already talked about. It's empowering, the connection, the quality, the cost, etc. So the DIY is cool, but herbalism was never meant to be like do it yourself and like feel, isolated and alone. It was always practiced within a community, within a mentorship, within, people around you and that support. So we really, even though it's an online course and we're spread across the world, we create that in all the ways we can, so that there is that support. And we've already mentioned a lot of those. We answer questions, but also we have, like, you asked, like, are people able to like make their own recipes and like freestyle stuff?
Yep.
Part of the joy of this is that we're all sharing the recipes that we're making, and so we get to see from people all over the world and like what they're doing, and it helps inspire other people. So we have that like ongoing community support and inspiration, which is really important, because sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we're really into herbs, and say our partner or our siblings or our colleagues or our bestie is not into herbs. And they might even like look down on us a little bit or something,
Right.
think we're like, not all there, or think that we've lost it, or, they might just whatever. And so it's important to have a community around you that it's like saying, yes, this is great. And that kind of support. And I think, I see a lot of people that have this kind of like, they want to be an herbalist and they feel that calling, but they don't have accountability and they have a busy life. And so they kind of have this like on again, off again relationship with the herbs, like they might go like, there's 1 week where they'll like make stuff. And then, but then they have like questions, and then they get stumped, and then they set it down and they don't come back for a while. So Rooted Medicine Circle is like for 9 months, we are like holding this container of, inviting people to show up. We have ways for people to show up in all sorts of different ways beyond the classes. So yeah. And then I think another thing too is, I know from my personal experience, like if I get a question that's like about safety or about the best way to do something, like my personality is that like I want the answer before I can move forward. So we really want to help people with that type of hurdle too. Like we want to be there like, oh, you have this question, let's help you with it so you can keep moving forward instead of getting stuck. So I think those are ways that, the cohort is, again, just that not that DIY thing, and just that we're having community support and helping people show up consistently.
Did you have anything to add to that, Emily, or?
I think it's wonderful, being in that community, because we do have people at different levels of experience, and as Rosalee said, different parts of the world and experiencing, different environmental conditions, where they live, and so just being able to hear from people within their different experiences, their different questions, what they're doing I think can be so powerful, and we have more experienced, herbalists or people who, maybe worked with some of the remedies more, sharing, their suggestions with people. We also often have a lot of returning students, they want to come back, and, they love the community and they want more. So, so it's wonderful to have, those people also, providing, some mentorship and their experiences with other people. So yeah, I think it's a really special community that we have.
Kudos to the people taking the course again. As my teacher, Howie Brownstein, says, repetition is the key to mastery. They're just drilling it further into their heads. I love that. I'm kind of curious what the community interface is like. Do people have like profile pictures and that kind of thing? Or what does it look like behind the scenes for people to kind of interact with each other?
Yeah, and the forums, like, all of those things are possible. And because, there's a lot of activity in those. We also have just meetups. And so people can just, we have designated meetup time so people can get on Zoom calls and interact with each other, which is a really powerful aspect. Because again, saying we don't always have communities of people where people like are excited to talk about herbs or want to like even just talk about nature connection. So that's a big part of it. We even have things like a Braiding Sweetgrass book club where we read Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, which is an amazing book. We read that together, section by section, and then we discuss it together. So there's really a lot of opportunities for, it's not just the class time, but really a community where we're growing together in all these ways. And I love what you said about repetition, Mason, because I feel that for myself. Like I learn new things every year, and I get things, drilled in more every year too. So that's the fun thing about herbalism. It's countless levels of learning and understanding.
Yeah, the competition versus cooperation comes to mind listening to Rosemary Gladstar speak on that recently. And like, there's so many different herb schools, and it's like, well, I've already taken three now, so I need to it's time for me to take another one. You know what I mean? So there's always different things you can learn from all the different teachers in our wonderful community. So, awesome. Well, let's talk some bonuses. What are some bonuses in the Rooted Medicine Circle?
We have so many fun bonuses. Well, Rosalie already mentioned, we have the community forum and the Braiding Sweetgrass book club. So those are both, really great ways to get to know people, within the community. We also have our notebook. It's like 300 pages of medicine making tutorials and recipes. Also, activities, exercises, journaling prompts, to help you with your medicine making, as well as developing that connection to the living world around you. We have a reference library.
That notebook is beautiful too. Sorry to interrupt.
It is. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
We worked with an illustrator, Ghana, and she was the same illustrator for Wild Remedies, but we've continued to work with her over the years. And so it's all these like customized illustrations. So Emily, especially, she's the detail oriented. So she has put countless hours into this notebook and updates it every year to make it just absolutely perfect. So I'm really like, in some ways I get like more excited about that notebook than anything else I've published. It's really incredible.
Yeah, I think it's a gorgeous notebook. And also we've got like over 50 monographs and 65 recipes, and so many of those, also have those beautiful illustrations and photographs and things too. So those are all in addition to the regular medicine making lessons that we have. We have a new bonus this year. Rosalie and I are going to teach a gardening class. So many people, are interested in growing their own herbs, whether you have a windowsill or a balcony or a backyard or, maybe even larger space. So we're going to be teaching a class, helping people, learning like the number one thing you need to really focus on before you get started, how to select the herbs that will thrive in your local area. Also, how to harvest and store the herbs so that you can extend their shelf life. So we're really excited to be offering that as a bonus for the first time this year. We also have our Wild Crafters Toolkit, which is a 12-part video course. And that includes things like ethical wildcrafting skills, plant identification, guides on harvesting and processing. And that's really useful, whether you're foraging for wild plants, as well as even if you're just working with, garden plants too. It's a really helpful course. Let's see what else we have. We have student discounts, for buying herbs and supplies. We have so many different bonuses that we offer.
That's a good thing to mention, Emily, because one thing we strive to do is be really inclusive, and we do that by teaching through various learning styles. Like I mentioned, we have videos, we have written materials, etc. But we're also very inclusive in that, like, some people, they don't want to garden and they don't want to forage. They really just want to buy the plants, which is totally fine. And so we give a lot of direction on how to do that in good ways for the health of the planet, also to have the most potent herbs. And so that's a really important part of it as well. Like however you want to get the herbs is fine with us. We just want to make sure you're maximizing the best way to do that.
I'm just curious about you mentioned the monographs. Do you both co-author those, or how does that work?
How does that work? We do. Yes. Sometimes like there's plants that Emily has a close relationship with, and so she does the majority of the writing and vice versa. Yeah. But then there are sections within it. Like Emily wrote a lot of like what did you write, Emily? Kind of the like very detail oriented stuff.
Like the botanical identification and some of the how to identify and how to harvest. But yeah, we both had a hand in all of the monographs, in some way. So yeah, it's been a nice collaboration there too. And a lot of the monographs actually came from the Wild Remedies book. When we wrote the book, our editor came back and said, "This book is way too long. You're going to have to cut some plants," which was like our children. And so
we had to cut half the plants. I mean, it was Because I think
Yeah.
it's like we
So
turned in like 500 pages and they were like, this can't be more than like 300 or what. I can't remember the numbers, but it was like we turned in double
yeah.
the amount. So yeah.
So yeah, so some of those, monographs were basically, originally intended for the Wild Remedies book, and then now they're in the course.
I'm glad they're getting used. So it doesn't sound like these are pre-recorded then. I'm just kind of curious, how long do folks have access to the recordings? Because I'm guessing a lot of times students can't make the live class. So do folks have like a limited time on when they could watch these class after the fact, or?
It's a great question because actually the majority of people don't attend live, and people love that because they love to watch it on their own time and then be able to like stop and pause, because when you're making it yourself, like maybe that's something you want to do, you like stop and like wait for your thing to simmer or whatever. And then the answer to your question is that they have forever. So they
Oh,
get
wow.
access to that classroom forever. Um, and which I think is great, right? Like we want to have that, like they bought it, it's theirs. They get to watch, interact with those forever, whatever that means. But the other thing is that because we have that certificate path, which again is a very popular thing, that you don't have to do a certificate, but many people do. And in that, we do give a structure of time of like, you have to watch this by this date, which is helpful for those of us like me who need deadlines. If there's that's kind of part of the problem with sometimes with online courses is if you have access to it forever, then it gets put on the back burner because you have other things up in your life that aren't as urgent. So we kind of make it urgent so that people will get through it, because as we said, we have an extraordinary amount of people who finish the entire course and participate in everything. And so we like to facilitate that happening.
Awesome. This is just top of mind because a Herb Rally community member was asking about AHG hours, American Herbalist Guild hours. I'm just kind of curious, if someone takes this course, will that work towards their certification with the AHG?
It does, yeah. Especially the sections of medicine making and materia medica. So that's within the AHG certification. Those are the things that we're covering.
Sweet. Well, very good.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up and get out of here?
Well, this has been really fun. Thanks again for having us on, Mason. Well, like I think it's probably obvious now, like Emily and I are both really passionate about helping people make medicines with herbs that they are really connected to. So there's a strength in that medicine, not just in the constituents extracted, but also all of the magic that goes into that, the creation of it, the connection to it. And it really, that is something that people can just keep growing and building on. I think it's an amazing skill set to have today. I often think like, I don't know what I would do without herbs. Like there's a time to rely on Western medicine, but there's so many times where Western medicine, they don't have remedies that are like what we really need. Like I can't think of like how many stomach aches I've had that I can reach for something that's natural, that's something I've made that helps, helps my stomach, rather than something that might cause more side effects, for example. So there's a practicality to it, but also that deeper connection. And it's just been like our complete privilege to watch people go from being like herbal enthusiasts and like wishing that they were herbalists and wishing they had that deeper connection. And like we get to watch them over this 9-month period of them becoming like actualized in that and leaving the course saying, like, I am an herbalist now, and looking at their kitchen that's stocked full with this apothecary of all these things that they know how to use. So it's really like has become my why of being an herbalist. Like the students and their journey has been one of my greatest joys. And yeah, I would say if people resonate, if people are excited to make herbal medicines and excited to deepen their connection to the world around them, then the best way to get started is by checking out the free Rooted Medicine Circle mini course, because then we really deep dive into, like I said, the pitfalls that people experience, making of teas, and it really gives people a sense of what it's all about.
Well, awesome. All links to the free course as well as the full-on Rooted Medicine Circle will be in the podcast show notes and the YouTube description. And with that, we'll end the episode. So thanks y'all for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode. Later, skater.
Later, skater.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.